Welcome to our series on the new music, part 10. I would like to share with you some experiences sent to me by friends and devotees who have attended the Om Choir these past years. The Om Choir in Russia, February 26th, 2005. A few nights ago, I had the strong impression of a voice saying, "There must be an Om Choir in Russia." I felt this to be exactly true. The next step in the progression of Om choirs throughout the world, chanting their aspiration to the divine for the descent of the new music and the new world. But how to begin this choir? The next morning, I was walking on the ashram street near the post office, and a young man, Dmitri, approached me. He said, "We would like to begin an Om choir in Russia. Would you help us?" Last night, the members of a group from Russia that had come with Dmitri joined the adult voice class, and we sang Om together. Russia is the soul of choral song, and the intensity and sincerity with which they offered their profound prayer surely was the beginning of the Om choir in Russia. Aurelio has been in the Om choir many years, and his experiences have been beautiful and profound. I will share more of them in future segments of the new music. He writes, "The Om choir is very happy to be able to meet in the garden of Savitri Bhavan to continue this experiment of a collective offering. Confining ourselves in the simple gesture of a heartfelt Om, the flame of our singing aspiration rises high to invoke the descent of a new light and sound energy into the very cells of this earthly field." Aurelio. (400 BC). That night I lay down as usual, when after some time a dream started. It is not unusual for me that I become aware of the dreaming and do not wake up but stay with the dream. And that is what I did here. In the dream, I found myself in the French Alps. I saw great big mountains with snow caps. What a beautiful sight to see. The air was so clear and colors so crisp that its beauty could stop your mind at once. Next, I noticed a little chapel out of stone, very solid, sandstone built. Now, inside that chapel, looking out through the big arched windows, or I would better say opening, as there was no glass in these side windows. One was extra big, and there was colored glass in that one, or what looked like colored glass. The daylight flooding through this opening was so clear and so touching, the most beautiful morning sun I can remember. Crisp, crystal clear air, a little cold. I was feeling that air and light on my skin. A voice was now telling me that it was 400 BC. I thought, how strange that I have been told the time, 400 BC. Now I hear music, beautiful music, nothing I have ever heard before like that. I stayed with the music as long as I could and took it all in. The dream faded. I tried to hold on to it, but soon opened my eyes to find myself right where I started, in bed. When I looked at my watch, I could not see clear. Things were moving in front of my eyes. In an attempt to get up, I found out that my sense of balance was not good, and things were moving up and down in front of my eyes now. I stayed in bed, and after a little dizziness, got much better, and I could get up without risking a fall. Later that evening, before meditation, I told my trusted friend, Brian, about my experience. Brian is a monk since 45 years. Anyway, he asked me some questions about the music. He wanted a description, and I told him that it sounded sweet to my ears, not much tonal movement at all, but much like layers of sound, not what you usually hear on the radio anywhere. I did not know what instrument could produce a sound like that. Some months later, when I was helping at the Sri Aurobindo Om conference on opening day, there was an Om choir to be assembled. I was never part of a choir like that. When the whole thing started, after some instructions and voice warm-up, I was floored. There it was, the instrument that makes the sound I heard in my dream. About 100 people singing, making the sound Om. That assembled instrument made the same sounds I was hearing in my dream back then. I told Narad about that, and he asked me to write my experience out for him. So here it is. I'd like to add that it was a wonderful experience to have been part of the Om Choir that day. Love and light. Andreas Mario Miller. How the Sound of Om Saved My Life, by Amal Sirkar, in a letter to Narad. I have read about what Sri Aurobindo and the Mother have written or spoken about the very powerful word, Om. I never imagined that the mantric sound of Om would save my life. In 1986, I was suffering from acute bouts of coughing, especially after taking food. Many doctors examined me and prescribed tests and medicines without any success. My physical condition was deteriorating fast. I came to Pondicherry. A doctor, the late Dr. Bipin Bihari Prasad, an ex-student of the Sri Aurobindo International Center of Education, said that since the specialists had found nothing wrong with my chest, he suspected the trouble might be in my stomach. I laughed at his diagnosis. What has cough to do with the stomach? He took me to Pondicherry General Hospital for an upper gastrointestinal GI tract X-ray, also known as a barium swallow radiograph X-ray. An examination of the upper gastrointestinal tract, specifically the pharynx, back of the mouth and throat, and the esophagus. The X-ray revealed extensive damage of the protective lining of the esophagus, indicating that the food intake is blocked, resulting in bouts of coughing and bleeding. The doctors suspected that I was suffering from terminal cancer of the esophagus, and my days are numbered. Though I was not told about my death sentence, others in my family were informed. A pall of gloom descended over my near and dear ones. At that juncture, I met an ashramite in the street. He inquired about my health, and I informed him of developments. He requested me to accompany him to his house. He brought out a portable tape recorder and played a recorded talk between him and the mother. This is published in the book, Sweet Mother, Harmonies of Light, and the All India magazine of December 2001. Though I could not follow the entire conversation between them because I did not know French, I could understand the salient features. What impressed me most was the way the mother was chanting Om, Om. Later on, I read in the English version of the talk, where Mother states, with the help of Om, one can realize the divine. Om has a transforming power. Om represents the divine. You will recall this Om, Om, that's all. Om, it must be manifested. If anything goes wrong, repeat Om. All will go well. X advised me to chant. In addition to taking medicines, I started chanting Om daily. After 3 months, when I came for my checkup at Pondicherry General Hospital, the doctors, to their utter amazement, found that there was no trace of my illness, and I have survived. They called it a miracle. Such is the power and efficacy of the mantric word Om, or Om, and the grace of the Divine Mother. P.S. It is interesting to note that the Pondicherry Aerodrome transmits Om as the non-directional beacon, NDB, code. A pilot who wants to land must tune his radio frequency to the locator code of the station where he wishes to land. In the case of Pondicherry, it would have been PY, but the chairman of the Airports Authority of India, Air Marshal C.K.S. Rajay, approved the call sign Om on the request of a devotee of Sri Aurobindo and the Mother, overruling laid down procedures of the International Civil Aviation Organization, the apex body of aviation in the world. During the inauguration ceremony of the Pondicherry Aerodrome, Shobhadi and other ashramites chanted Om, a departure from ashram and government protocol. Most of the experiences that are sent to me about the Om Choir are not, the people are not named. Some allowed to be named, as the first two I read, and these asked not to be named. This one, anyway. Now, this is a dream. A few days after the first Om Choir, which Narad facilitated at his return for this winter season, 2009-2010, I had a dream which expanded on the setup and energy of the weekly Om Choir in Savitri Bhavan. In it, a very charged atmosphere was felt, in spite that the hall was packed full. It was very concentrated and silent. I looked around and saw that there were people everywhere, even outside, in the amphitheater, the courtyard, the garden, all ready in anticipation of the next sound wave to start and descend. And suddenly, it felt like there was no building anymore. The walls became somehow penetrable, of a different matter. There were no distances. The people on the very fringe of the large gathering were as close as the ones in the inside of the circle. And there was a common participation in a specific vibration which was present everywhere in the space. On the way home, it had happened before that on the motorbike ride home from the Om Choir, there was a heightened awareness in the listening. The wind gathering in the ears while driving was singing in many overtones, according to the speed and turn of the head. On the way home of this season's third choir evening, the experience was so strong that I wanted to actually immediately sit down on my return and write it to Narad. It so happened that early next morning there was a phone call which reminded me to do so. The specific Om Choir had been rather subtle, more quiet, not as expressive as at other times. There was a sensibility and subtleness in the tone and intricate beauty in the hall. Sitting on the motorbike, driving north along the Matrimandir garden boundaries, there it was again. In a more cosmic, or should I say natural tone, carried through the wind, reflecting many of the nuances of the collective singing, exact passages, strains of these momentary melodies, of the same mood and atmosphere. Through the wind in the ears, spreading through the whole being, filling it with joy and gratitude, bathing in the resonance of the echoes of these tones, which seemed in these oral reflections like miniature architectures of loving sound. Aurelio. We are standing on the threshold, and the door is open. Now we move into the light. Thank you.